an objective aim so that we could achieve it in life. And the precision and the most precise decisions are made so that we do not miss out on the opportunities that the life gives us and the world poses to us. But sometimes it does not allow us to become the happiest or happy at all individuals within the world that which we reside in. Come across a lot of people, some that struggle with anxiety and continuous depression, and others we find that have no peace and happiness or contentment within their circle of life. And this is due to one particular element which is ignored. And sometimes we do not even give our slightest of attention to the matter. And unfortunately, this is a common thing. When it comes to the deen, when it comes to the matters of Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's thrown at the top shelf somewhere. And when it comes to the world and making the effort to achieve that which we want, we make all the effort we want. But it's not just about that. There's more to it. So in particular, in today's sermon, I wish to touch on a particular matter, and that is the matter of the heart. The matter of the heart is a very serious matter, because within inside the heart, a person holds inside it his iman in Allah. He holds inside it the taqwa of Allah. He holds inside it elements that which allow him to become successful in the hereafter. But these elements that which are required for a person to develop in his heart and to nurture in his heart, so that he could become an individual who is successful in the sight of Allah in the hereafter. Those elements are not paid attention to. Well, nobody even knows of them. Sometimes we don't even understand and comprehend the extent of these elements which have an effect on our heart and our everyday living. We'll Google up all the minerals in the body. What am I lacking? What is it that I need? Why am I feeling lethargic? Why am I feeling tired? What's going on? Is something, am I missing out with my vitamins and so forth? And you supply that to your body. So you function. So you're attentive. And even although the body is able to achieve all of the vitamins and minerals that which you wish to have and that which you're lacking, you still miss the element of happiness and contentment and tranquility, and cannot be found. Because these elements that which are required within inside the heart are not even worked on. They're not even looked at. They're not studied. They're not understood. So one of the things to help fix a heart that which becomes sick, and we all have these elements of sickness that which need rectifying. For the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and this hadith, we've most probably come across it. He said the fact that there is a muscle inside a body, and if that muscle is rectified, then the rest of the body is rectified and fixed. And if that muscle becomes sick and corrupted, then the rest of the body becomes sick and corrupted. Ala wa hiya al-qalbu, and indeed it is the heart. But to understand how is it that we should fix something, in every element of life and factor, one of the greatest things that's required is for a person to have uluwul himma and sidqul azima. That he needs to have a strong will and he needs to have a high aim, an objective set in his mind. First is the fact that we recognize and we understand that the heart is something that needs to be worked on. The heart is something that which becomes sick. When we're not talking about physical ailments, we're talking about the rawhaniyah of the person, the soul of the person. That it becomes sick. Now, to fix something at any moment of time, a person requires a strong will. And he requires for himself to be truthful to the fact that I'm going to fix it. And when a person does that, then he moves on to purifying the ailments that have made his heart sick. And one of the things that Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he said with regards to the heart, he said that the fact that the heart is like a bird. The higher the bird flies, the safe it is, or the most safest place for the bird is to fly as high as possible. And the higher it becomes, the more safer it is. From the elements of the world and the people that might want to hunt it, or the elements of the earth and that which might want to grasp onto it, so it flies high. And Imam Ibn Qayyim, he said that the heart, the higher it goes, the closer it becomes with Allah, the safer it becomes. And Imam Ibn Qayyim, he said that there are two things that the heart needs safety from. First and foremost, he said, ash-shubuhat wa-shahawat, doubts, and secondly, he said desires. So the higher you raise yourself away from this earth and the elements of this earth and wanting to attain from it whatever it is you want, and you attach this heart higher with Allah Azza wa Jal, and you allow it to rise like a bird, you save yourself from the ailments of this earth. And the first thing being that the shubuhat that the person comes across, that there is doubts that creep up to him, there is sicknesses that come to him, and then shahawat, desires, sin, wanting to do haram. So a person, when he involves himself in these two factors, his heart becomes sick and weighed down. Then when he becomes weighed down, he becomes an individual who feels heavy, lethargic, tired, because his heart has become sick. And we don't recognize it. And the reason we don't recognize it is because the heart becomes closed. When we don't do certain things, Allah describes it, and we'll touch on the ayah, that the heart becomes closed. That it cannot feed and it cannot take in any information or any form of cure that which would rectify the problem. And the reason for this is because a person doesn't understand and recognize what the cure is. So here we find the fact that for a person to be able to fix his heart and to rectify the ailments of the heart, one of the greatest methods and prescriptions that are given to us from the Shara is for the person to hold these two factors very closely to himself. That is the fact that he has a strong will-powered individual, that he wants to fix the problem, and he is truthful in wanting to fix it. These two factors. Now, what helps these two factors to come about in a person? Now, you want to become an individual that wants to fix himself, that wants to become better, that wants to rectify his heart. But you want this strong-willed individual to be yourself, and you want to be truthful to this will that which you have inside you. And the ulama describe for a person to become in the companionship of individuals who are righteous. So this means that when you come into the realm of individuals who are righteous, who hold the opinion that which is correct, and only want to achieve the closeness of Allah Azza wa Jal by hanging around with them, being in their companionship, sitting in their gatherings, this will allow you to establish this uluwul himma, because they carry about with themselves this high, strong-willed individual that they carry themselves as. You want to become like that, hence hang around with them, be in their companionship. And the second thing is the fact that a person attends their majalis, their gatherings. And this means that wherever you hear that there is a dars of the righteous people coming together, believers in Allah coming together, doing the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, remembering Allah Azza wa Jal through the means of lessons and so forth, you sit inside them. Well, I say that you could create it for yourself. As we have the social media and we have the internet, that the person has his headphones and he has a screen in front of him and he has a teacher in front of him and everybody's listening. You could create it for yourself. وَإِلَّا the barakah that the person would find from coming inside a masjid and within inside the settings that which are in the houses of Allah Azza wa Jal, then this is far greater. So to accompany yourself within this realm of individuals who are righteous, who remind you of Allah, who remind you of what it is that you're here for. They are strong-willed because they are wanting to please Allah Azza wa Jal. This is important for you to sit in their gatherings and to be around them so that you could take something from them. You go to a shop, a meat shop, and you spend an hour in there. You go home and the wife says to you, or the children say to you, or your brothers and sisters say to you that you smell like the butchers. And that's how it is. You come to the masjid, you come around individuals who are righteous and pious, you sit with them, you spend your time with them, you will start to smell and behave like those individuals. And you will see change within yourself. So one of the things that we find that the benefits of a person who gathers himself with righteous people and behaves and enacts that which the righteous people do, where it is said in a hadith al-Qudsi, where Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, تَوَجَبَتْ مُحَبَّتِي لِلْمُتَحَابِينَ فِيَّ, that the person who loves another person for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, then it becomes mandatory upon me, meaning Allah Azza wa Jal, it becomes mandatory upon him that he loves him. Allah loves a person who loves another Muslim brother for the sake of Allah. How do you come about this? You come about this by being around people who are righteous. In another hadith, in the same hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says that Allah says, وَالْمُتَجَالِسِينَ فِيهِ, that those who gather in gatherings only for the sake that they remember Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah loves those individuals. So when you come to a gathering, or you come to a weekly dars, or you come to the masjid to listen to the dars, or even you come to the fact that you come to Jumu'ah, just so that we could gather upon the dhikr of Allah, so we could be reminded of Allah Azza wa Jal, and we could be reminded of our responsibility towards Allah Azza wa Jal. If your intention is for the sake of Allah, and the reason is to please Allah Azza wa Jal, then you attain the love of Allah Azza wa Jal when you leave from here. وَالْمُتَزَاوِرِينَ فِيَّ, and also the person who leaves his house and he goes to meet another person and he finds the fact that he's sick or he's in need of his help and so forth, and he goes for the sake of Allah just to see him. Allah loves that individual in return. And also those who make an effort for one another. So in this hadith, we understand the fact that the person who wants the love of Allah, and that love of Allah is mandatory upon him, if only he loves for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal one another. He sits in the gatherings in which where Allah Azza wa Jal is mentioned and His dhikr is mentioned, and he remembers Allah through those gatherings, and they visit one another for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then they help one another for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we find within this the fact that the person is able to attain the love of Allah Azza wa Jal in return. So we spoke about elements, that which would allow a person to become stronger at heart and be able to rectify the illnesses of the heart. We said that there are two factors needed for this. Number one is the fact that he has to have a strong will. And second, we said the fact that the person himself, he has to be an individual who's truthful to his will, that which he wishes to carry within himself. Now we spoke about the second point, that which is attached to the first, and that is the fact that how do you develop a strong will within inside yourself to change? And how is it that you become an individual that's truthful to Allah Azza wa Jal and to the need of changing yourself? And we said the fact that the person, he gathers within the surroundings of individuals who remember Allah Azza wa Jal, and righteous individuals who are constantly upon the effort of trying to change themselves. Now we move on, just so we could understand the fact that what it is that would help an individual when he finds and he recognizes that there's an ailment within inside me and I want to fix it and I want to become closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. That what is the effort that the person needs to make? First and foremost, the ulama say, is the fact that the person, after maintaining and understanding the fact that he needs to become an individual that's strong-willed, and he's an individual that is going to be within the circle of righteous people, now he needs to make sure of the fact that he makes effort, he does actions, and he empties and frees his time. Now this might sound strange, and it might sound very simple, and to some people pettish. If you wanted to achieve something in the world, it be a certain thing that which you like, you cannot achieve it except the fact that you dedicate yourself to it, you take upon the means to achieve it, and you take your time out for it. You couldn't achieve it without that. So for a person to achieve a change in his heart, a change in his iman, a strengthening of iman within himself, then he is required the fact that he does very simple, the fact that he makes effort, he does actions to support that effort, and then he takes out time also. Like I said, the time would come initially, but the time to be able to do the things that which would allow him to come out of this problem and achieve that success or that cure of the heart. Without this, my brothers and sisters, it will not work. And this is something that we're not willing to do. We're willing to take time out for everything else in this world, to achieve whatever other means that we want and all the comfort in this world. But we do not pay attention, and I said this in the beginning, that we do not pay attention to the details and the elements that which make the heart sick. When we start to pay attention to the elements that which make the heart sick, and we try to rectify them, then my brothers and sisters, then that means that you take time out, you make the effort, and you do the actions. Three things are very important. And if we are individuals that say that I recognize and I know that I am a sick person at heart, I'm not remembering Allah, I'm not engaging in my purpose of life, then that means the fact that I need to make the effort. And for me to make that effort, I need to take the time out. I need to sit amongst people who are righteous. I need to be in the gathering of Quran. I need to be in the gathering of a dars. I need to be in an environment that which is good for me, that which would sustain me upon righteousness. And the ulama write that when we take time out for these sort of things, what's the meaning behind this? That the person prepares to fight. What do we mean by that? See, when a person wants to fix his heart, and he wants to fix his iman, and he wants to fix his taqwa within himself, and he wants to rectify the way he thinks, he knows he needs to take time out. He knows he needs to, work on it. He needs to make an effort. But he needs to take time out to prepare to fight. Because when a person, has become used to shahawat in general, and he is filled with shubuhat, meaning he is a person that has only fed himself with desires all his life, and a person who's lived with doubts all his life. As soon as he takes his path, it becomes immensely difficult for him to change, because that means to leave off things that which he liked, things that which he preferred, things that which his nafs would be inclined to do. And that's because his nafs became used to doing those things. So that means the fact that the time a person needs to prepare himself and understand the fact that I will go through these struggles of change. That this change doesn't just happen by me just praying salah and by making a small amount of effort. No, you have to mentally prepare yourself to fight with your own nafs, to change it, to rectify it. And this time is needed so that the person recognizes, why is it I'm doing that? What are the things that are pushing me towards this particular haram, or this inclination of doing something that which is not permitted? Now I want to pray my salah, but there are friends that don't allow me to come to the masjid. So that means to fight with yourself to maintain that relationship to an extent, but then carry on with maintaining that relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. So you limit your relationship with your friends and you extend it with Allah Azza wa Jal. And that might be a difficult task. For a person who might be in sports and so forth, for him to limit something and then give it up because it's salah time and I gotta pray. So he gives it up. He has to give it time. A person who's got friends and they meet up every weekend and so forth, but then there's a dars inside the masjid, but the masjid in itself requires the fact that you come to it and you sit in those majalis and within those majalis al-dhikr and so forth. But that means that you have to give up the time with your friends or reallocate that time. And this is difficult. It might mean the fact that where you like to come back home and sit in front of the TV and put it on and relax and just wind down. And that means the fact that I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to come home, I'm going to come straight to the masjid, and I'm going to pray my 2 rak'ah to Allah Azza wa Jal, and I'm going to engage in the dhikr of Allah. And your nafs will not like it. Your nafs will not like it. That's because it's become used to and inclined to things that which it likes. And that means the fact that you have to change it. You know, like when you go on a diet and you've been eating sugar all your life, and you've been eating all these desserts and everything else, and you say, I'm going to lose weight now. Right? I'm going to lose weight. And what do? You get off all this sugary stuff and all the sweet stuff, and then you go on to what? Simple broccoli. You don't like it. It's hard. You can't even eat it. You go hungry 2-3 days, but then there comes a time, and you know it's good for you, then there comes a time where you enjoy it. And you understand the fact that there's enjoyment in eating healthy. And then you start feeling better. I'm active. And just like that, your iman, when it's sick, you don't know. Everyone in their iman is overweight and overly sick. But that means the fact that now we need to do this diet and we need to cleanse ourselves from all of this filth that is attached to it. But that means the fact that we need to make the effort. And one of the greatest things that we said is the fact that you give it time. You have to allocate it time to fix it. Just the way you would do so in your diet, that you need to do the same for your iman to fix it. You need to allocate it time. I need to spare it time. You need to cut off from places and so forth, that which make your iman sick and so forth. And then you come to a point where you say to yourself, I'm going to just do this. And this is my new schedule. And that new schedule is very, very hard initially for a month, 2 months, 3 months. But then again, alhamdulillah, bi tawfiqillah azza wa jal, you're able to tread on it with ease. One of the things that I would request the brothers, and this is me coming across, like I said, individuals that can't even breathe. You know, when I see the brothers and, they can't even breathe and they're huffing and puffing, they're feeling tight inside and they're anxious all the time and they're struggling with themselves. So one of the things is al-isti'anatu billah. One of the greatest things that you can do is to ask Allah for help whilst you take this path on. You take the path, but at the same time you ask Allah Azza wa Jal for that madad, for that help. For Allah Azza wa Jal is the one to grant you the tawfiq and ability to be able to change. And you need to prove it. You need to prove it. And within that, when a person wants to cleanse his heart and purify his heart and aliven his heart again and bring in that tranquility and peace, and you've started to take that path, and we've mentioned the path, and then one of the greatest things after that is to engage with Allah Azza wa Jal through dua. I cannot go into the detail. The khutbah was generally quite lengthy, and the extent of being able to resolve these problems was quite lengthy. While two things I leave with you, and I would request the fact that the brothers pay attention to these two things. And that number one is to extend in your dua all the time, asking Allah Azza wa Jal to help you change and become a person that which He loves. And secondly is to engage with the Quran. While, like I said, I would have loved to break these points down to a point where, inshallah, the brothers can take it with them. While if you could do these two things and maintain them, then inshallah you would find that there would be great change within a person's iman, his heart, his health, his mental health. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless everybody with that. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول أو عمل، ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول أو عمل. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداءك أعداء الدين. اللهم أصلح شبابنا وشباب المسلمين ونساءنا ونساء المسلمين. اللهم أصلح أحوال المسلمين في كل مكان. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصل الله وسلم على نبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. قوموا وبارك الله فيكم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.